This week's Training Tuesday, we're just going to touch on a couple things from last week, a couple reminders regarding the small purchase threshold going up slightly due to the CPI index. Reminder about our monthly bid buy training, which will be a week from tomorrow, Wednesday, July 22nd. And then we're going to get into some ad hoc reporting functionality in bid buy. Now, I think we're just going to kind of touch the surface of what can be done with the business intelligence tool in bid buy, but we'll do a specific example of all of your reporting that you can report off of. You can report off every single field in bid buy. So it can be pretty expansive, and we'll just kind of walk through that as well. And then our fun fact of the day. So let's jump right in. So as a reminder, we touched on this last week, but as of July 1st, the small purchase threshold was raised to $104,100 for this next fiscal year. Now that's due to in the procurement code, it speaks to the small purchase maximum being raised every fiscal year by the consumer price index, which is the CPI. So there was an adjustment. Here's a link to the CPO notice. We walked through it last week, but just in case you didn't join us, it's there once again. So that's going to be important as we're talking, about what procurement method we need to use. Once you get up around that small purchase threshold, just as a reminder, if you're doing a small purchase and you estimate that it will be, just above $100,000, you're not necessarily into IFB territory, but it's always going to be a good thing to reach out to your SPO first. Because what happens is, and I've seen this happen, where an agency does a small purchase, but the quotes come in actually over the small purchase threshold. At that point, they can't award as a small purchase, because now you have to do it in IFB. So you could lose a little bit of time there. So if you ever have any questions about that, reach out to your SPO or me. I can help. Is just if it's going to be close to that small purchase threshold, we might be looking at doing an IFB anyway. So it might behoove the agency to go ahead and pursue that procurement method. And another reminder, we also talked about this last week, but as we move into July, we're going to have our monthly bid buy training, which will be the same format as we've done the last couple of months remotely. Next Wednesday, July 22nd, starting at 9 a.m. And we will break it down by each one of these topics. So at 9 a.m., we'll do introduction, an overview, and general navigation for the bid buy system. And this is all very bid buy specific. At 10 a.m., we'll do a small purchase under $10,000. At 11 a.m., we'll do small purchase $10,000 and over. We'll break for lunch, and then at 1 p.m. we do release off master training. So there's going to be a little bit of time in between each one of these, and so it gives a little bit of break. And so if you can't join us for the whole day, that's totally fine. Please feel free to jump in as you're available. And it is the same WebEx. It is the link here. I'll send out another email to SPOs and APOs, so you could reach out to those folks as well. There's no password, and you can just join us if you'd like. So let's get into the ad hoc reporting. Okay, we have a question. Any advice on the BEP goal, which kicks in at $100,000? That is a fantastic question. I meant to talk about that. So as the question is raised is BEP goals kick in at $100,000. What if you have a small purchase, which there are not BEP goals on small purchases? So you have a small purchase at $103,000. Should there be a BEP goal on that? So I'm gonna, regarding BEP, I'm gonna have to kick that, because if it's over 100, then there is a chance that there could be a BEP goal on that. So let me circle back. That's a really good question. As the small purchase, when it was in line with the BEP goal, that made sense. So anytime it would go over the small purchase, it was also locked in with the BEP goal. So I will actually have to circle back and get an answer for you on that, because I don't want to speculate. Okay, so ad hoc reporting in bid buy. Get out of my email. You guys don't need to see my emails. All right, so I'm in bid buy. I'm locked in or logged in here. Now, how we get to our reporting is up in the upper right-hand corner where we have the little gear here. You have a drop down, and it's called ad hoc reporting. It's right next to where you would do the Granger punch out. We click ad hoc reporting, and then now we have all these different domains that we can do. So this tool is really powerful, and I'll be honest, I haven't spent a ton of time doing the report, so I know that there's a lot that can be done here. But also just as a reminder too, the BidBuy is an off-the-shelf system that was um, figured for the state's needs, but a lot of these things we aren't using. So anything that has to do with receipts and some of these, we just don't use those. So you're going to be picking a domain, and what I'm going to be doing today is the purchase order domain, because at the end of the day, when we're looking at procurements that have been done, that's going to be done at the purchase order. So we're looking at the procurement file, reporting on things that have happened in the past, those sorts of things. So the example that I wanted to use today is one that all agencies will end up needing to be doing every year, which is that the small business set aside reporting. So I'll select purchase for domain, choose, and then now it's going to bring in all of our, the source over here is on the left-hand side. So we have all our fields, and then we're going to select them and bring them over to the right side to report on them. So there are a couple different ways to do this. If I click this middle button right here, it's going to bring over everything, and then you can kind of sort and filter from there. But if you know that you only want certain information, it makes the reporting go a little bit quicker. So if you're in a situation where maybe you don't have the fastest internet, just think about all the fields that are in BidBuy and all of the agencies and all of that information. If you try to bring everything over, if you don't have a good connection, it might take a little bit. Now, if you know that, oh, I want these, these 5 or 6 fields, you can go in and select them right here and pull them over. So let me talk about really quickly about the source, these fields over here. If you notice, these are all the fields that are in our POs. So you can actually click on these little arrows next to the names. And so for instance, if I click that, it's going to bring up all of these different options. Okay, so these all look familiar to you, right? Contact name, department name, document status, fiscal year, org ID, all those sorts of things. So if you know which ones that you want to do, you can just select them. And we are going to have an option to be able to put in a pre-filter. So I want to show you how to do that. So the first option would be, I know exactly these 5 or 6 fields that I want. I want the fiscal year, I want the org, I want the, maybe it's for a specific department. I want the small business question, where you have to select, is this set aside for small businesses? If I want to select those, I can just do that. The other option is I select all of them, right? I click that middle button and it brings over all of the fields. So you can do that from the front end, and then I can go in and add a filter if I would like. So what I'm going to do is I don't want to bring in everything, for a real life example, if I'm with Department of Agriculture and I'm trying to run a report for my organization, I don't need to bring in all the reports from all the other agencies, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a pre-filter. So I select pre-filter. What it's going to do, it's going to allow me to put a filter very similar to what you would do once we export it into Excel, but you can do it on the front end within the system, so that way it's only bringing over your agency, right? So let's say I want to put a filter on, let's see, it was the fiscal year, or let's just do the org actually. So the org. So double click that, and now it brings up my filter, and I just want to pick the one agency. Now I select OK, and now it's only going to bring over my one agency. Okay, at that point, if I wanted to do any other filters, you can add other specific filters if you would like. But now it's going to be only for the Department of Agriculture. And now we're going to pull over all of our potential fields. So if I want to put in, maybe the document status, right, and make sure, okay, it's the POs that are in sent. We could do the PO number. That's definitely one we would want. And all I'm doing is double clicking on each one of these. Header custom columns. So we have a custom column data map. You can see how these are all called header column 4, header column 5. Now each one of those custom columns that we added, that the state of Illinois added, has syncs up to one of these different columns. And we have a custom column data map, which we can get to you if you don't have it already. And so it's just a spreadsheet that just says, PO header column, header column 7, which is the one we're working on, is the question, is this subject to small business set aside? So, we always need to remind ourselves the caveat is whatever, we're reporting on whatever was put in the system. So, the old adage is kind of, garbage in, garbage out. So that's going to be something we always need to kind of be aware of is the system isn't going to know. It's just pulling information that was inputted in, right? So we're going to be looking at the PO header column 7 because I want to pull, in this specific instance, I want to pull out a report on all of the, is this subject to small business set aside that was answered yes. Okay, so I'm going to go to header column 7 if I go back to my reports in these header columns. And we have header column label and header column value. Now, in this case, I don't need to bring over the label, which is just the question. I mean, I can if I want. If I put that there, all it's going to do is it's going to say, is this set aside? But really what I'm looking for is that header column 7 value, which is it's going to bring over, 0 is no, 1 is yes. Okay, so we have that. Let's see, what else would we want here? Maybe short description. You can play around and just pull these over, as you would like. Maybe which the department, we'll pull that over. That way we could sort through the departments if you want. Certainly the fiscal year is going to be important. Let's see, we don't really need to do the ad or the org name, but we could if you wanted to, because we've already put that pre-filter on there to begin with. Short description, that'll be helpful. And then let's see, maybe the vendor name. Sure, that'd be good. So you see, I'm just kind of picking each one of these that I want to report off of, and I'm pulling over into our other field. Let's see, what about, and then maybe dollars, our dollar amount. Okay, here we go. All right, so now you can see once I export this, I'm going to put this into Excel with each one of these fields that I've pulled over. Okay, if I wanted to add another pre-filter, I could. And what we're going to do next is go up in here to our main ribbon here. If I just wanted to save it, I could also save this. If I knew this was going to be a report that I'm going to do over and over again, I could save it. Or I can just export. I'm going to export to Excel. And now it's running the report. So this is the piece that, say, if I didn't have a good connection and I tried to pull all the reports for all agencies with all the fields, that might take a little bit. So now I have my report. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up now. And now I have a good report with my information. Let me scroll in there or zoom in. Now you can see that I have all my different document statuses. I have the PO number. I have everything here. Now I can, start to manipulate the information in Excel, which is, in a format that we're all used to. So, I could do, well, I want to do, certainly just FY20. Okay, and, we have that header value. That is just 1. Okay, so now we have 1, which is the yes answer to our, is this a small business set aside procurement? So now you can look at it and go, okay, well, now I have all of my, these were all the procurements that was marked yes to. So these were all, either small purchases or set aside for a small business. Okay, so there's quite a bit of clicking around in terms of how to get that report. But once you've gone in there, and here's a good thing. Here's the good news about running reports is that hold on, let me
Okay.
somebody. There we go. Um, is you're just pulling information from the system, so there's nothing that is you're not messing anything up by going in and trying to pull different reports and that sort of thing. So that's good news there. Is we're just pulling from information that's already within the system, and you can if I wanted to pull all the information on all of those fields, I could do that, and I'd have a nice big long spreadsheet. And there's no specific amount of time or limits on how many reports you can run. So feel free to jump in the system and really go through there and play around with it. But that's everything that's within the system. So just as a reminder, if maybe this was not marked, one of these procurements was not marked as a small business set aside, and it should have been, that's when you need to go back and really look at the information and kind of compare it to, go through your, in this instance, the, small businesses and make sure, okay, well, you know, is this actually correct, right? So when you report back to the EEC for that small business report that has to be done every year annually in the fall, that's what you're going to double check that against. If you look at one of those and you know that one of those vendors is not a small business, for instance, um, chances are that that question here, that is this small business set aside procurement, was just answered incorrectly. So um, don't need to beat a dead horse here, but I just want to really emphasize that all it is pulling information that was originally put into the system. Okay, let me go back. Sorry. Oh yeah, just to confirm, header column is the same as custom column. Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I missed that question earlier. Yeah, so when I go back and say, if I'm running my report, let me go back to the report and I go custom column. So we used to call them custom columns. If I go into bid buy and just pull up something here. Those custom columns are the things that we added, those little questions. So if I would go into, the general tab, for instance, it's all these things that are down here. These are all our custom columns. And all those, it almost is synonymous with field, like any of the fields that we input, you can run a report off. So let me go back to that Excel spreadsheet that has the custom column data map. And I think that might make things a little bit clearer too as well. Is just so you know, we have, the only way you can run reports is the system is saying, okay, PO header column label 1 is the agency reference number. Header column number 2 is the old contract number. So these are all these different things that the system is going in and grabbing the header column 5, where the state of Illinois is saying, okay, header column 5 is the special procurement type, whether it's emergency, state use, or sole source. So reach out to me if you do not. You know what? Actually, I'm just going to attach this custom column data map to the presentation today. That way everybody has it if you didn't have it in the past, because certainly reporting is, even though we've been in bid buy for a few years now, I think reporting is probably the biggest piece that it's kind of the tip of the iceberg that we haven't really hit a lot yet. I know there are a lot of folks that have kind of gone in and figured it out and worked through it. But this is kind of the first time that we've really done a presentation on it. So, to be continued. We're going to be, following up and doing some more reporting or training on the reporting functionality because there's a lot to it. But I think this is something, what we walked through today is just a kind of an intro to reporting, and, go in there and take a look around and try to run some reports. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And with that said, do we have any more questions? To our fun fact of the day. So July 14th, it's Bastille Day. So the French Revolution began in 1789. And so you think it's been in Illinois lately? we think it's been, I feel like it's been hot. This week hasn't been bad at all, but last week was, we were all roasting pretty good. But in July 14th, 1954, it actually was 117 degrees in East St. Louis, and that is still a state record. So let's just be glad it's not 117 and it's only, you know, in the 80s and 90s. All right. Do we have any other questions? And I will absolutely reach back out to just to confirm the BEP goal question over $100,000. Okay. Not seeing any questions. I'll send out the slides per usual. This video will be posted out on the training center per usual. And everybody have a great rest of your week. And just as a side note, I'm going to be out the rest of this week, and I'll be back Monday. So I'll be trying to check in some emails and that sort of thing while I'm out of the office. But if not, I will get back to you soon. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.